Welcome to Inside British Royals. This is your exclusive look inside the world's most famous family. We are exploring the scandals, secrets, and power plays that define the modern monarchy. If you are new here, please do well to hit that subscribe button for more updates. For Prince Andrew, it seems there's no rock bottom. Just when you thought the disgraced Duke of York couldn't fall any further, he did. First, he was stripped of his titles. Then, he was arrested. And now, his own brother, King Charles, has reportedly put him under a set of humiliating new restrictions to control the royal outcast. This is the story of how a man, once at the very heart of the monarchy, became a virtual prisoner, accused of misusing his royal role for the benefit of the notorious Jeffrey Epstein. For the first time in centuries, a senior royal is finding out that blood isn't always thicker than the law. Instead of celebrating his 66th birthday on February 19, 2026, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor got a knock on the door he'll never forget. In the early hours, officers from Thames Valley Police arrived at Wood Farm, his relatively modest home on the Sandringham estate. The former Prince Andrew was arrested, a sentence that still feels surreal to say. For about 11 hours, the king's brother was held and questioned on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This wasn't just a quiet request to come down to the station. Police conducted searches at Wood Farm, and even his former home near Windsor Castle, signaling just how serious this was. The event was a bombshell, marking the first time in nearly 400 years that a senior member of the royal family had been arrested. You have to look all the way back to the 17th century to find anything like it. In modern Britain, it was simply unthinkable. After 11 hours, Andrew was released but not cleared. He remains under active investigation, with a dark cloud of suspicion hanging over him. While he hasn't been formally charged with a crime, the arrest itself is an unprecedented step. It confirms that the deference he was once automatically given is gone, replaced by the cold, impartial process of the law. The family that once protected him could no longer shield him from his choices. The question wasn't if the scandal would catch up with him, but how it finally happened. And the answer was buried in a newly released trove of documents. So how did a prince of the realm end up in a police interrogation room on his birthday? The answer, as it so often does in this story, leads back to Jeffrey Epstein. The catalyst for the arrest was the release of new files from the U.S. Department of Justice. But these weren't the same old stories of sordid parties. This was about his official duties. Inside a cache of emails and documents were records from 2010, a time when Andrew was supposed to have cut all ties with Epstein. Instead, the files allegedly show Andrew, who was then the UK's special representative for international trade, communicating with the disgraced financier. The investigation is centered on allegations that he shared confidential trade information from his official visits to places like Singapore, Hong Kong, and Vietnam. As the UK's trade envoy, Andrew was in a position of enormous trust, with access to sensitive economic and geopolitical information. The suspicion is that he abused that public trust by sharing information with Epstein, a private citizen with a criminal record. The files also suggest Andrew was asking for Epstein's advice on potential investors, blurring the lines between his public role and his private friendships. Now, this is different from the sexual abuse claims that have haunted him for years, particularly those from Virginia Giuffre. Andrew has always vehemently denied any part in Epstein's crimes and settled a civil suit with Giuffre. Tragically, Virginia Giuffre died by suicide in 2025. After Andrew's arrest, her family released a statement, calling it proof that, finally, no one is above the law. For them, it was a form of justice. For the police, however, the focus is squarely on misconduct in public office, a charge that points to a potential betrayal of his country. King Charles has been playing the long game. Long before the arrest, he began methodically cutting his brother out of the royal picture, a calculated effort to protect the crown from the Andrew problem. The snubs have been both symbolic and brutal. First, the titles went. In a stunning move, Buckingham Palace announced Andrew would be stripped of his remaining royal honors, including the title of prince. He was to be known simply as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, reducing him from a senior royal to just a relative. This wasn't just PR. It was a formal signal from the king that Andrew no longer represented the monarchy. Then came the eviction. Andrew had lived for years in the grand, 30-room royal lodge at Windsor. But King Charles, as the new head of the family and the estate, ordered him out. Andrew was forced to trade his mansion for a life of comparative modesty on the Sandringham estate, moving into Wood Farm, the very place where he would later be arrested. The message from the king was brutally clear, delivered not in person, but through official action. Andrew was out. The brotherly bond was officially second to the survival of the crown. Now an outcast on his own family's land, Andrew is living in a gilded cage. While the specific details are kept quiet, sources close to the palace describe his new life as being governed by a set of humiliating restrictions. His freedom is heavily curtailed, and his daily life is a constant reminder of his fall from grace. Gone are the days of enjoying the vast estates as he once did.